the actual place where you compose stuff? Is this the seat that you use, or is
This
this
is
one of the
no. This is it. This is it. This is pretty much it. But I mean, to be really honest, most of the writing happens in my head, and I try not to really touch this thing, the keyboard, until I know roughly what I want to write about, because otherwise, look, everybody has access to the same 12 notes here, and you're just flailing about all day, and anything, yes, everything becomes a sort of a pretty tune, but it doesn't have a point of view, so you have to go and, you have to figure out what you want to write about, and then the notes sort of, after a long, big, neurotic struggle, suddenly start falling into place.
So what happens? Do you look at the footage on, say, one of these monitors as you're composing? How does it exactly work? And how did it work for Sherlock Holmes?
Actually, Sherlock Holmes was different insofar that is exactly how you describe it. Usually the way it works with me is it starts off with a conversation with the director. And it usually starts off before he goes out and shoots a movie. We're at least starting to figure out our language. We're at least trying to figure out our sort of sonic world, or what we're trying to write about. Sherlock Holmes was different because I just got a phone call one day from Guy Ritchie going, hey, I'm doing this Sherlock Holmes movie, and every time I go into the cutting room, they keep putting more and more Dark Knight music all over it, and I don't like it. Which was, for me, a perfect way of starting a conversation, because the last thing I wanted to do was do Dark Knight Part 2 in Victorian England. So plus look, Sherlock's a comedy, whichever way you look at it, and Dark Knight is definitely, I wasn't worried about protecting many jokes in that one. So I went over and I looked at it, and I looked at it very with a sort of slight European dubiousness, and the whole thing. I had grown up with the Sherlock Holmes stories, and I loved the Sherlock Holmes stories, and I had heard rumors of Guy, who had never met, wanting to do this sort of action-y version of Sherlock. And the thing, of course, which attracted me to Sherlock Holmes was, that intelligence as adventure, what the synapses firing in the guy's brain as exciting as a car chase. I mean, that's what, so... But within 20 minutes, Guy had me, because he had that device he uses where you hear Sherlock Holmes describing what he's going to do next, the slow-mo pre-visualizations. I thought, wow, he's actually solved how to do that. And, and then, I knew I wanted to do quirky, and I knew, and so much of this stuff, you're asking, am I looking at the picture on the monitor? Yes, I am, from a certain point on. But most of it is, it's like remembering key images and writing from there, and trying to come up with the sound and trying to come up with the tune.
Well, one of the things I really like about the film, especially, and it's very memorable, is how that score at the beginning. It's very overpowering. It's very, you've entered a different world.
Well, yeah, and we fought for that. I mean, look, I don't know if I want to be controversial or whatever. I certainly don't mind being polarizing. I think you got to be hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm. And it is a quirky score, and it is a powerful score, and it doesn't hide. It doesn't do. People always think, good film music is music that sort of homogeneously floats around in the background and supports the scenes in a sort of a gentle way. That's not what I was trying to do on Sherlock Holmes. It was very outspoken. It was very much with a point of view. It was pretty bold. Okay. And very different, very, very different. And at the same time, and this is more for an audience to say, I think it was the right thing to do on that movie. I think it gave it a color that you wouldn't have gotten had I just gone down had I trudged down the path of doing, Victorian or Elgar or any of the great classical English music, and gone down that sort of road.
No, totally. And to be really honest with you, while Avatar is getting a lot of press right now for the visuals, no disrespect to the music on that, I don't remember it. It doesn't stand out. And in respect to your score, it is very, very much, it adds that third dimension to the film.
Well, you have to have a director who has that sort of courage, you know, and who wants to go there and goes, okay, we're going to go bold, we're going to go and be provocative, and completely gets that, you know, once you start going down that path, you can't go and turn back either, because it's you know, the whole idea of Sherlock was, you know, I wanted to bring in these great soloists and really let them be virtuosic and let you hear let them be as expressive as possible. So you can't turn human expression down. You either take it out or you play it boldly. And we settled for playing it boldly. And you know, there were a couple of arguments with people who shall remain nameless and people who got a little worried. And there was a point which was super duper terrifying for both Guy and me, where we had to go and preview the music for the score because it was so different, you know, and you know, look, this was Warner Brothers' Christmas movie.
Totally.
Right? And here's a guy, I don't know how much the movie cost, but a movie costs $100 million if anything costs anything anymore these days, you know, who was putting banjos and out-of-tune pianos into this $100 million Christmas spectacular. And yeah, there we were in Arizona, you know, and playing it, and then the focus group, you know, and them asking, well, did you like the music? And that moment between that, you know, and the question being asked, you know, was the longest time spent in hell. Well, that was only a second, but it felt like 8 years of purgatory.
It's very interesting that you say this, because your resume is very impressive, and you've been doing this for a very long time. Yet it sounds to me like you're just as nervous as you were, you know.
It's yes. I mean, every movie starts the same way. I have no idea what to do, and I have no idea how to do it. Plus, I don't know where the music comes from. You know, I don't know the mechanics of why somebody can think of a tune and why somebody can't. So, what if they turn off the tap? Right, you know. So every you know, and the job is slightly different because you're supposed to go and do something. You're supposed to invent. That's really what they're asking you to do, and not only invent any old thing. It's supposed to be appropriate for whatever we're working on, and it's supposed to be something that nobody else can imagine. I mean, if I asked an audience, you know, what's the music you want to hear in Sherlock Holmes? I mean, they'll very quickly tell me what it would be, right? But that's not my job. My job is to do the unimaginable in a way.